This is Anas al-Sharif, the Aljazeera reporter who became known as the voice of Gaza.
Anas al-Sharif, Aljazeera, Shamal Gaza.
He was killed by Israel late on Sunday night, alongside fellow Aljazeera reporter Mohammed Qreiqeh and their cameramen Mu'min Alewa, Mohammed Nawfal and Ibrahim Zahir. Israel killed these journalists in a direct airstrike on a tent they worked from in Gaza City, which was clearly marked and known to be for journalists. Directing attacks against journalists is a violation of international humanitarian law and also constitutes a war crime. Tributes poured in immediately for these journalists who were admired across the globe. 28-year-old Anas al-Sharif from the Jabalia refugee camp in North Gaza became one of the most prominent reporters in the Gaza Strip. He bravely reported non-stop on what Palestinians in Gaza have been forced to endure under Israel's suffocating blockade, genocidal war, and systematic starvation. Anas and his colleagues in North Gaza were at times the only reporters able to relay what the Israeli army was doing to the Jabalia refugee camp and surrounding areas. Destroying entire Palestinian neighborhoods and emptying the camps of their residents. At times, these scenes they reported on in the aftermath of Israeli attacks left them in shock and speechless. But despite this, they vowed to continue their coverage. Over the course of the war, they witnessed and reported on their family members, friends, and colleagues being targeted and killed by Israeli forces. Anas had to report on his father's killing as he received the news live on air, after Israel directly struck his family home. His 65-year-old father was an old sheikh in the Jabalia refugee camp, and Israel killed him after threatening Anas's life if he did not stop reporting. Anas also mourned the killing of his colleague and close friend, 27-year-old Ismail al-Ghul, after Ismail was targeted by an Israeli airstrike on a car clearly marked as press. Mohammed Qreiqeh was a calm and eloquent reporter who powered on through the Israeli attacks and crimes he reported on.
لكل شخص في غزة قصة طويلة من ألم الفقد والحرمان والوجع.
He called on the world outside the Gaza Strip to be moved enough by what they see to stop Israel in its tracks and bring an end to this war. Mohammed Qreiqeh's mother was killed during Israel's siege and destruction of the al-Shifa medical complex in March 2024. Mohammed spent days searching for his mother, but was only able to identify and retrieve her body after the Israeli army withdrew from the hospital they had destroyed.
ولقيت أمي نايمة، عرفتها أنا من نومتها بس، عرفتها من نومتها، عرفتها من أظافرها، عرفتها من الأواعي، عرفتها من شعرها كمان. فأنا وحيدة، أنا وحيد أمي طول الفترة هذه اللي عايشينها أنا بس عايش معها، لقيت أمي نزبتني وأنا ضليت لحالي.
Both Anas al-Sharif and Mohammed Qreiqeh were fathers of young children from whom they had been separated for most of the past 2 years of the war. Anas now leaves behind his young daughter Sham and his son Salah.
بابا ترامب بقول بده يطلعنا من غزة، أنت بدك تطلع من غزة؟
لا تطلع في غزة.
And Muhammad leaves behind his son Zain and young daughter. Israel has been threatening and inciting against these journalists for over a year, accusing young journalists like Anas al-Sharif of having ties to Hamas without producing any evidence to back their claims. Israel had accused 23-year-old reporter Hussam Shabat of also being linked to Hamas before they killed him in a direct airstrike in March 2025. Israel has killed at least 269 journalists since October 2023. In July, Anas al-Sharif told the Committee to Protect Journalists that he lived with the feeling that he could be bombed or martyred at any moment. The Aljazeera Network condemned in the strongest terms the targeted assassination of its correspondents Anas al-Sharif and Mohammed Qreiqeh. In a statement, the Israeli army openly admitted to targeting the journalists and said they were hit by an assault directed towards the tent they were stationed in opposite the al-Shifa medical complex in Gaza. Al Jazeera reported that the order to assassinate Anas al-Sharif, one of Gaza's most prominent journalists, and his colleagues is a desperate attempt to silence the voices exposing the impending seizure and occupation of Gaza, holding the Israeli forces and government responsible for deliberately targeting and assassinating its journalists. Anas al-Sharif's will was posted shortly after he was killed, and part of it reads, "If these words reach you, know that Israel has succeeded in killing me and silencing my voice. First, peace be upon you and Allah's mercy and blessings. Allah knows I gave every effort and all my strength to be a support and a voice for my people, ever since I opened my eyes to life in the alleys and streets of the Jabalia refugee camp. I have lived through pain in all its details, tasted suffering and loss many times, yet I never once hesitated to convey the truth as it is, without distortion or falsification. Allah may bear witness against those who stayed silent, those who accepted our killing, those who choked our breath, and whose hearts were unmoved by the scattered remains of our children and women, doing nothing to stop the massacres that our people have faced for more than a year and a half. Though Anas's career was cut short, those he left behind vowed to continue his message.
أنس الشريف، الجزيرة، غزة، فلسطين.